Black Panther spoiler ep.
Spoiler ep, yeah. A little social commentary in this movie.
Powered by Vibranium this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Not just Cap Shield.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is movies like, I love doing the spoiler ups on the Marvels, but this movie is very significant for more than, it's not just a great Marvel movie. It does so much more in terms of.
It hit the right points, for sure. What I loved about it was...
Well, let's introduce our guest.
Let's introduce our guest. Let's do it. Being he worked on the movie.
Yeah, I'll just watch you guys talk.
We just wanted you to come and watch Chris and I talk. Yeah. Is that weird? He's here, and he's in full Black Panther regalia.
Garb.
He has a Black Panther hat, and show me your shirt. Wakanda forever. This is awesome.
And Black Panther... crew thing on the back as well.
Crew gear. We were trying to see if he had extras to give us, but he won't because we weren't worked on the crew. And I'm like, who's gonna know? There was
it's not because I can't. It's because I won't.
Yeah. Well, it's Hollywood.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Todd Perry.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Now, Todd was the associate visual effects supervisor on Black Panther. Now, as we know, for a movie like Black Panther with all the visual effects, there were probably like 6 people that worked on that.
Yeah.
Visual effects.
7,
yeah.
maybe.
I was hilariously trying to see your name in the credits, and I was like, this is never gonna. I was just hoping it would come up like Todd Perry.
15,000 people.
It went by so fast. I think I caught a glimpse of you towards like I think that I saw Todd. That's all I got to see was Todd.
Why don't you explain to everybody like what your job was and the process and everything, so they kind of understand?
All right. So I was a visual effects supervisor on the facility side, which means that I'm on the post and the studios that do the effects work, rather than on the studio side, which is they're on set and they're working with the director and the DP and the producers and everything, and they wrangle all of the shots. So I was with Method Studios. Industrial Light and Magic was another studio. Scanline was another studio. There was at least 5 major studios and then a whole bunch of smaller studios picking up work that was thrown in.
Didn't every visual effects house get some kind of work on this movie?
It seems like it. It seemed like it, although they were probably busy on other Marvel movies like Infinity War or something like that, because that's still going. And so my job is to oversee all of the artists and all of the shots that we have in-house and make sure that everything is looking nice and everything is remaining in continuity, so it's not bouncing around all over the place. We also have to pay attention to the story as a whole, so every little shot is a story unto itself. So you kind of have to ask, what's the story happening in this shot? And might be, well, this is the one where Black Panther gets hit by a rhino. And so we need, with everything else that's happening in the shot, we need to make sure that Black Panther getting hit by the rhino is the thing that the audience sees. So we need to control some of that. We work closely with the visual effects supervisor on Marvel's End, a guy named Jeff Bauman. And we did actually go onto set and work with them. So Marvel usually invites us out to set to work on the sequences that they're shooting that we know are awarded to us. That way we get our eyes on it, we know how they're shooting it, we have some input, we can stop things and say, whoa, can we put a green screen up behind you?
Right.
And then we come back, they send us a whole bunch of stuff.
Then you get to work.
And then when we get to work, exactly.
How long was the process for you?
I started last February.
Okay.
And the shoot was February, March, April. And then first cuts started coming in May-ish. And then
you've got pickup shots too and all that stuff.
Yeah,
reshoots and...
Yep.
And
which was the end of October.
Right. Wow, that was pretty kind of
Wow,
close.
they were shooting through the end of October for a February release.
Reshoot. So they shot at the beginning, cut it together, figured out what they're missing or what they needed to get. Then they planned for the reshoot, went back out to where they went in Atlanta and reshot the stuff that they needed to put into
Now, here's what's amazing is that this entire movie was shot in Atlanta. Those sweeping savannahscapes, no one was there. None of this was shot in Africa.
Wow.
Right.
So those
plates, they had helicopter photography and reference plates and stuff like that. But all throughout that battle at the end was a CG build of a fictitious place in Africa. So we took a whole bunch of pieces of Africa and put them together in something that felt
including
correct.
The grass. Even
That's
the grass.
amazing. So then so Wakanda is a soundstage in Atlanta?
We shot it outside. So it was an exterior location. So we got natural sunlight and that type of thing, which was a challenge unto itself because the sun moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the direction of the sun constantly changes. But everything beyond that hill was replaced.
Technically, just for the science nerds here, the sun doesn't move, the earth moves.
Right.
Well, that's debatable.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there it is flat, and the sun just
According to the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah, there's
things
ice
are a little
underneath
different.
it. Yeah. Those folks really got their finger on the pulse.
Yeah. They're STEM supporters.
But now, when you're shooting outside like that, and obviously with the Earth rotation and the sun moving, do you have to reorient the actors for a battle scene because of where the sun is?
No. I mean, we've been shooting movies for 100 years without worrying about the sun continuity. People don't seem to worry about it too much. They worry about like the length of someone's cigarette,
right?
But as far as directionality goes, we kind of blend it together. It doesn't it doesn't make that much difference. We do have to make sure that our sun in CG matches the same direction as the plate photography.
Right.
And there was some shooting, I think, in Seoul, Korea, correct? And,
right. In Busan.
Right.
Yep.
So that was location.
Yep.
So all of the interiors that like the lab or whatever in Wakanda.
Sherry's lab, that was a soundstage.
Casino.
Casino, I probably was a soundstage. That wasn't our sequence. So the exteriors, the roads and so forth were location, but a lot of it was replaced as well, like the scene going across the bridge where he smashes the SUV, the one that was in all the trailers.
Right.
Luma Pictures rebuilt that whole bridge so that they could control the shot.
And all the explosions.
Wow. Well, that's. I mean, it's so cool to hear how much is involved when you watch those massive movies and you see literally thousands of people in the credits.
Because we were talking about the earlier episode about how just production design wise, like an entire world was built. Like Wakanda, once you got underneath, it felt like an African Blade Runner with the way it was built.
And we actually got a Wakandan Bible that. The production designer, Hannah Beechler, and the costume designer, Ruth Carter, and also the suit designer, he's a comic book illustrator named Ryan Meinerding. They put together this 400-page document of imagery, and it was the history of Wakanda, how vibranium works, what vibranium looks like in all its states. The city that we go through, the Golden City, they broke that up into this is the University District and this is the Merchant District, and this is even though you don't see that in the movie, it's building the history of the entire
that stuff
community.
Is so important. And when we talk about movies on this show that we're like, oh, it just failed, it missed the mark, it didn't, they didn't do that much work.
Right.
The movies that you're like, oh, they just slapped together and I'll just make it look like this, and you're like, whereas when you watch a movie, you go, well, there's an attention to detail. There's so much stuff that you aren't even aware of, that there's a university district of Wakanda.
Right.
But that's what good filmmaking is.
Yeah.
It's all of those little things that add up. It's like a good actor, like that has their whole backstory in their head. It's not in the script. It'll never come out on camera, but the actor does that, so they're bringing a full three-dimensional person to the screen.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what counts.
Yep.
And
because Wakanda is essentially a character, not trying to be cliche about it, but it is, and it represents what Ryan's been, and the production designer, it's futurism. So it's this idea, it represents an idea that a society can evolve technologically and so forth, but it doesn't have to lose its tradition. So all of the design work and so forth has...
What was that word that they made up?
Afrofuturism.
Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
If you look it up,
Yeah.
it'll be out there now.
But it's
anyway.
Ryan Coogler who did Fruitvale Station. He did Creed. I mean, this is like, it also gives credit to Marvel puts the right director for the right
project
every time. I mean, it's like to then come in with this, to take what Stan Lee wrote in the late 60s and put the modern version of it. This is what Marvel's so good at. They hold true to the source material, but then realize that's a comic book. This is a different medium, and how can we expand on it? How can we, build this world that visually is amazing, that says all of these things. It's so fantastic. Yeah. And it was so cool to see. So let's get into the movie. So
now the one of the things that we want to talk about is the social commentary in the film. And what I really liked about it, I really was hoping it wouldn't take the easy way out, because a movie like this, like, oh, the bad guys is trying to arm poor black communities to basically overthrow oppression, and then everything will be ruled from Wakanda. Okay, that's the bad guy. Would take over the world. Got it. But, he has a point about, the oppression and the social injustice and everything that's been going on for the years.
And holding Wakanda accountable. Like, that was so intriguing to me. And then the fact that he's Wakandan. Yes. That Michael B. Jordan's character was Wakandan, and he's like, you guys have kept this technology, and it's a debate within the Wakandan hierarchy,
right? Of like, oh well, that's not our and it's a lot of that's not our problem. Right. It's not a problem. We're here to take care of Wakanda. That's the outside world. We don't deal with that.
Yeah. Right. And Michael B. Jordan goes, "There's 2 billion black people on the planet that could use your help."
Right.
And it was like, wow, it was so intriguing, and it's like, because so then Michael B. Jordan isn't just, oh, bad guy wants to take over the world. You're like, he's kind of got a point. Yeah. It's like Ra's al Ghul in the Batman Begins. Yeah. Like, corruption is awful. I'm sorry. Like, his version is
got to be cut out as like a cancer.
Yeah, it's extreme, or even the Joker in Dark Knight, when there's that scene where he goes, oh, don't talk like them.
You're not like them.
You're not like them. You and I are both the same. And it's like, the Joker's got a point,
you're both wearing costumes.
You're both wearing costumes. You're both beating people up. And this Michael B. Jordan, I was like, wow. I'm siding with him a little bit, because when I in the middle of the movie, I'm like, yeah, man, that's messed up. They have all this money and all this power. They could have helped all these people, and instead they just kept in their nice, rich, gated community.
Right, yeah.
And didn't help anybody out.
No.
So it's a commentary on...
They literally hid inside a tree dome.
Yes. And let the rest of the world believe that they're a primitive culture.
Right.
When they are the most advanced culture on the planet.
And you also show, like, the specifics. Like, you get to see the specifics of the advancements. Everything from transportation to medical, like how many lives could have been saved just with the medical technology alone. And the easy way out, too, of the movie, we're like, well, Wakanda's just this African nation. We're going to keep our secret. We're going to hide. And, Black Panther says, no, now we're going to open this up to the entire world and actually do the right thing.
Well, it's a great battle or debate. His best friend kind of sides then with Michael B. Jordan.
Right, says, turns on him.
And he's not, he doesn't do it for money. He doesn't do, like, there's no petty reasons. And he's kind of like, your dad screwed up.
Yeah.
And it's like, so then
there was one, the catalyst of that too was the killing of Claw.
Right.
Like, cause that was the promise that he made to his friend, and he didn't do it. But then Michael B. Jordan's character, Killmonger, he actually delivered him. So I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Thanks for the gift. I think we're going to listen to what you have to say.
And the challenge still, I get the challenge for the crown.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's still part of that. That's still part of his bloodline. So even deeper than that, that means that Eric Killmonger represents African Americans who have been pulled from Africa and separated and left. So there was the point where Killmonger goes into the ancestral plane and sees his father, and his father says, they're going to treat you as an outsider. They're going to think that you're lost. And he says, well, maybe it's the country that's lost, and that's why they can't find us. And Coogler is, and also his co-writer, who I'm missing the name of.
Joe Robert Cole.
Yeah, so they're injecting every single.
It's actually even more writers on there. There's a couple more.
They 2 more credits. Interesting, because they're the primary ones, but they're injecting so much meaning into everything about it. So Killmonger represents the African Americans who are pulled from their culture, and they can't really find their way back. And then you have parallels to the United States, because Wakanda is an isolationist and they're protective, and W'Kabi says, well,
and rich.
If
they're also a rich nation.
Rich and technologically powerful. And W'Kabi tells T'Challa, if you start bringing in refugees, then they bring their problems.
Yeah.
And then and that argument, there's no mistaking what they're trying to compare.
No, that was pretty on the nose.
Well, that was great too, and it also is showing, it's the argument of, so America is the richest country in the history of the world, and the wealth inequities are greater than they've ever been. And America, has all this poverty, all this crime, and then the wealthiest people ever are living here. And what could they do? It was like the 1%ers there's 62 wealthiest people on the planet have as much money as the bottom 3.5 billion people on planet Earth, right? Yeah. And they literally have combined of trillions of dollars. If this 62 people were to give away half of their money, they would all still have hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars each. They could raise up the bottom half of the planet's life. They could change people who are in destitute poverty and slavery type situations and awful. These 62 people in real life could change the entire face of the earth by just giving away their money and helping people. And they don't want to. And so this movie, I was like, damn, I love what it's saying.
Well, yeah. And it's, I love the conflicted soul of Wakanda. And that's really what the movie was about. Like, are we going to help people? Are we going to stay isolationist? Are we going to use all this power, technology, and wealth to help people? Or we're not going to? Although I will say that, I liked the villains a lot in this movie, almost like more than the heroes, because they were really interesting. Especially like the backstory of Killmonger. Like, you wondered, like, well, if T'Challa's father had taken him off that basketball court after killing his father, taking him back to Wakanda, what might have happened? Right. What if he would have raised him? And the other, I love Ulysses Claw. God, that's just the crazy arms merchant with the gun hand. Yeah. I'm like, I was kind of sad to see him die, because he was such a fun
He died
character.
kind of early, but it was. I loved him because he was very much kind of a MacGuffin. Because you thought the whole movie's going to be about getting him back and getting him back there. No, we got him. Done. Yeah. Guess what it's really about?
Right.
And that's the thing.
Andy Serkis plays a lunatic so well.
Yeah. So great. Good. He's such a great bad guy.
We were going to say, like, he does great even not mocapped.
Yeah. So he's a good actor. Yeah. He and Martin Freeman are the Tolkien white guys.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the regular episode. I mean, I love Martin Freeman. And I understand.
Yeah, I forgot they were both in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Yeah,
I understand that like it makes sense to have a CIA guy in the plot, but I almost felt a couple times like they shoehorned in the white guy, like, so we don't want to bum out white audiences. I don't care. I think that type of white person is already offended at this movie, so fuck them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you like comic book movies, It doesn't matter. Your ethnicity doesn't matter. You're just like, this movie's awesome.
The CIA operative, like in the weapons deal, like we were talking about before, made sense. But like when he started hanging around, I'm like, now he feels kind of shoehorned in a little.
And why does he need to ride the plane?
He is Everett is part of the Black Panther mythology throughout the comic books. He's basically the Felix Leiter to James Bond. He is the envoy of Wakanda to the United States.
Right.
That's what he becomes anyway.
So that it could be a little more set up in this movie with that character, that where we'll see him again and it'll have probably a more pivotal role in Black Panther. Is Black Panther 2 been announced yet?
No. I think everybody's asleep and resting after delivering this one.
It's going to be announced soon.
Yeah.
The box office receipts are still coming in. This announcement's coming soon.
We're going to wait a little bit, see how well it does.
Yeah.
My other little, again, I love this movie. I love what it said. I love all of this stuff. But in honor of it being a spoiler up, I got a nitpick. The one little scene when Black Panther comes back, when Chadwick Boseman comes back and he meets his sister, and there's a little sibling rivalry, and she flips him off. I was like, they're raised I was like, they're not American suburban kids. They're raised in a royal, they would never do that. These kids are raised to, like, they're highly educated. It's all about serving their king and their queen and their Wakanda. I was like, that would never happen.
Or make it like a Wakandan bird. Like it's a different.
They would never do that. I hate it when they say, all teenagers act this way. No, they do not. This is a spoiled American thing. People who are born into service of a royal lineage they're not doing that. So anyway, this is just it's like when I hear astronauts argue, it fucking drives me goddamn crazy. But I let it go, and it was the rest of the movie. Her character was really interesting.
We should make a list of your triggers.
Fun.
Astronauts arguing.
Oh God. It's just like, it's just so, it just feels like but I love the movie.
Yeah.
I loved too with all the different tribes. They explained the history and the warring, and then that opening credit thing.
There's always the one the one renegade tribe, and like, I know we're gonna see them again,
right?
But the way that guy came back, I liked him. Now, he was defeated in the challenge,
right?
And then so when he comes back. And there's some funny scenes too. They did that thing that Marvel is so good at. The comedy, and this is the other thing too. The flipping of the finger didn't feel consistent with the rest of the sense of humor of the movie. That's and it's like astronauts arguing.
Yeah.
But it was like the humor of the renegade dude when they go back to him for help, right? When they get out of there after Michael B. Jordan takes over.
M'Baku.
Mm-hmm. And that some of the stuff, the jokes he makes or whatever, when they're like explaining to him.
Was it a fair fight? Well, it sounds like he got defeated.
Yeah. I mean, that shit was hilarious and felt completely justified and motivated by his character and that tribe. And then when they came back, I'm like, all right, he's coming back. Like, this is rad.
Yeah,
like, it was predictable in the best way.
And speaking of nitpicking, that's a great point of like, the last words he said is, "I'm not going to help you."
Right.
And then the next time you see him is like he's bringing his army down and he helps them. You're like, well, what changed his mind?
I want to talk to you about this, Todd, because one of the things that I loved in the depiction of technology that we've never seen before in Wakanda.
Right.
When they're doing that in the opening scene, they're
sand sculptures.
That sculpture thing that's like
what house did that?
Yeah. I think it was Perception. Mm-hmm. Perception also did a lot of the initial look development for all of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's always a foundation of it's vibranium, so it's based on sound and vibrations and things like that. And so anytime that we could, we incorporated these things called cymatic patterns, which happen if you take a dish of water and put it on top of a speaker, and you change the frequencies you see the frequencies moving through the water. So that drove a lot of the technology. Any kind of blasts, anything like that had these cymatic patterns throughout it. But the sand is a different state of vibranium. So that drives their little hologram things. And so that incorporated itself into the opening sequence. And then the closing
opening sequence was so awesome. How they described, they used that stuff to describe it and how it showed. And then when they're like in the ship looking at the caravan, and then that stuff, that vibranium, whatever stuff pops up, and then he picks up one of the trucks and opens and looks into it. I was like, oh my God, that was so like, oh, it's technology we've never seen before. It was so cool how it was done.
Yep. And the holograms were supposed to be basically grounded in this sand stuff, so that we didn't get to a light-based hologram, which is what we're always used to. So when those holograms form, they're coming out of sand. So the idea is that they wear these beads around their hands. If you watch the movie again, you'll notice all the characters have these beads, and those are compacted vibranium sand. So the bead comes out, and then it dissolves and forms into the hologram. So all of that stuff is
right.
I never got that on the first viewing.
I kind of got it, but it's that thing we've talked about numerous times in this show. When the science in science fiction is like based in something, and more importantly, we always get so mad when they establish a science fiction rule in a movie and then bail on it.
Right.
They never did that in this film. It was like, even that explanation, which I didn't realize that, but subconsciously I was like, I bought it. Every time that happened, I was like, oh, it totally makes sense. This is how they communicate. This is their holograms. They have vibranium technology. Like it all made sense.
How
to
did
me.
Ulysses Claw get his arm gun? Because he said he got it from Wakanda.
It's a mining gun, or not a mining gun. It's a mining tool that he changed to be a weapon. That's the background behind it. He lost his arm in Age of Ultron, but that's what he replaced it with.
And I love the relationship with Lupita Nyong'o and Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, because she's not his sidekick, or his. I mean, he fawns over her, but she's such a strong character that she doesn't fall into the girlfriend's.
Well, she's the spy.
She's the spy.
It's so great. He says there's one line in there, and I forget it specifically, but I'm paraphrasing. Is like, boy, your stubbornness is why you will never be queen. And she goes, my stubbornness is why I would be a great queen.
Right.
And it's like, I was like, damn.
And then she's like, well, if I wanted.
Yeah, if I wanted to be a queen.
And like you say, Todd, that's such a great point. She wasn't written as the girlfriend, the love interest. You're like, no, she's a badass character. These two have feelings for each other. And the way that's handled, and she's like, I don't need a man. I'm not like, oh, I can't wait to be a princess. She's just like, I don't know if it's going to work out between us because my job is out there. It's more important.
Right.
Like that's so awesome.
And the same tension happens between Okoye and W'Kabi. You barely get a glimpse that they have a thing going. But at the end, when he's riding the rhino down and she stands in front of it, and then he says, would you kill me? And she says, for Wakanda, without question. So there's no.
It was so like, I'll do anything for my man. And she was like, no, mission first. And I'll do anything for Wakanda. I was like, that was such a badass character.
Yeah.
She was so great. And just from an acting standpoint, when she's delivering that line, it's a great close-up. You see she loves and cares for this man. That comes across her face very quickly, and then Wakanda first.
Right.
Like you see all of that in her face. I was like, oh God, that was such a great scene. And you know what? That's the thing. Why, if she would have gone, oh, I'll save you, I would have been like, man, a warrior wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? It would have been my astronaut argument. You know, I would have been like, so they all stayed consistent with this.
With the characters.
With the characters. And with Wakanda and what this fictional royal, super society, superhuman, this advanced race with all of this technology.
And all the mistakes that they made.
Yes.
Including the ostracizing of the fifth tribe.
Right.
You know, the gorilla tribe. I will say
The Jabaris. Yeah.
they called it the Gorilla City, home to the Man-Apes Jabari tribe.
Yep.
Was originally set in a rainforest, but Ryan Coogler felt that was too obvious and suggested it move to a snow-covered mountain. Not to be confused with the DC Comics Gorilla City, because I think each one has their own Gorilla City.
I think so.
Well, let's talk about the ending a little bit, because I did so.
Which one?
Oh, well, the main one, I guess, where Chadwick Boseman comes and talks. I think it's at the UN where he says, "We're gonna give this technology. We're gonna help," and then you see him back in Oakland saying, "We're building our first thing here."
Right. Vice versa. You were in Oakland first.
Oh, right. That's right.
And then you go to the UN.
Right. That's right.
But that was originally that was much more expansive. Like you saw all of what Wakanda was doing for all of it, like making wells for.
Wasn't that one of the stingers? The extra scenes?
No.
The UN was a post-credit scene.
Yeah, the UN was the post-credit scene.
Right.
Right. So that one was a scene that I thought, well, that could have been a more expansive scene as part of the film.
Yeah.
Why do you think...
Was that originally the plan?
Yeah. The Oakland thing was a later addition, because I think that they wanted to make the help more personal. And so before it was, we're helping all over the world, and now it's, we're starting here.
Start block. Well, that's the old adage.
Block.
Start in your own backyard. You know,
Right.
block by block, and then that awesome scene where the young kid is like, he sees the super. I mean, oh, who are you? That was like, that was awesome. I mean, and then his sister is like, she's going to tell all these young kids what's up. She's going to show them the technology.
So what was the extended UN scene? Like you said, they would get into more specifics.
They originally, you had the one of the other white dudes in the UN thing say, you know, no offense, but what can Wakanda, a farming community, help the rest of the world? And then you just get a smile from Chadwick Boseman before they like beamed in all kinds of footage into everybody's computers and everything, showing all the ships and the city and all of that kind of stuff. And then it expanded to a montage of helping out different countries in different ways.
So that got scrapped.
Yeah, it got minimized down to
I
basically a Chadwick Boseman smile.
Was it minimized
Knowing
because
smile.
now that you explain that, I feel like the minimization was because, we'll see all this. We don't want to tip too much for a sequel. Was the reasoning, or do you know?
Maybe it also could be running time. It also could be they
right.
wanted to. If you notice, all of the storytelling and the dialogue and so forth is really quite minimal. There's no huge, David Mamet monologue type things where I'm explaining everything. Right. And it starts out with T'Challa's father, coming to visit his brother in Oakland. And he says, the dialogue goes, "How is it back home?" "Well, it's not so good. We had this guy come in and steal this stuff, and explosions and death and so forth." And he doesn't say, "And I'm blaming you." It just goes back to his brother, and his brother says, "Why are you here?" And then he says, "Because I want you to look me in the eye and tell me why you betrayed Wakanda." So all of that exposition that could have been there as dialogue was compacted down to basically 3 sentences. And that happens a lot. There's a lot that goes unsaid and remains in the subtext, so that you can kind of fill in the gaps.
Well, it's more efficient screenwriting.
Well, it's more efficient screenwriting, but it's also that, to me, I like that when filmmakers do that, because this is filmmaking. Movies, especially a movie like this, which I saw on an IMAX screen, and we'll get into the framing in a sec, because I want you to explain that. But like that to me is good. You shouldn't. There's an old story, like Steve McQueen, when he would do scenes with people, he would cut so much of his dialogue because it's facial expression. It doesn't need. You don't need to sit there and over explain everything,
right?
And that to me is the beauty of the medium of film. Is these actors and these writers and these directors get to convey all this stuff in these on a 40-foot screen, just a slight emotional anything is so like, oh, it's so powerful when executed correctly. So I'm actually, that's great. I love hearing that. It's another reason why I love this film, because it conveyed so many intense and complex things. Because like we talked about, it wasn't just clearly good guy, bad guy. There's very complex things. You kind of understood everybody's side in this a little bit.
Right.
And
or some ideas are encapsulated into one phrase. So when in the museum, when Killmonger says, how much did you think your ancestors paid for this? Or you think they got a fair price, I think is what the name.
Great.
And he doesn't explain, well, the British Empire went around.
Slavery and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he just says.
Just one little thing. And then another one is when she's starting to feel the effects of the poison in her coffee. He's like, you've been watching me ever since I walked in here, but you don't even pay attention to what's in your coffee or what you're putting into your body, which is also them pointing out, you guys are judging someone on their looks and you're so focused on it that you're not aware of the dangers that are actually
But really,
around.
She was right.
She was right.
Yeah.
But it's a good, no,
but there's a social commentary
I love
within that little phrase.
Sure. I mean, it's a
Absolutely.
big social comment. You talk about America,
And it's such a succinct phrase. Like the whole movie, like you're saying, is full of those like little just nuggets that get the point across in the least amount of words possible, which is really interesting.
Right. We had to maintain the lie. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so great. It was like all this great social commentary.
Except Ulysses Claw talked a lot.
He was super chatty.
He was, and but it fit him. Like it.
He would be.
You could see him running his mouth.
And he was just he was sort of, I mean, he was two-dimensional, but in a good way, not in a like but like, oh, we just need a crazy fucking wingbird.
Yeah.
You know, we just need a goddamn wingnut bad guy that we're going to hang this MacGuffin on. Mm-hmm. And then when he goes away, it's like, oh, and then we get into the meat of it. Like it was, I loved that.
And something about Claw and Ross, as far as their representation of the white society. And I picked up on this with the first trailer, because the first trailer opened up with that dialogue between them and Claw saying, talking about Wakanda. So Claw represents the white society that wants to subjugate, oppress, take the resources of the African continent. Ross represents the ones who misunderstand who they are. They have nothing against them. They're nice people, but they're farmers and
Right.
So it's more of a almost an entitled liberal stance of we're going to accept them, but they're just them. And then the other guys are like, we're going to take advantage of them. So those two characters represent those two sides of
that had to
society.
That had to be intentional.
I'm almost certain of it,
Of
and
course
that's why it
yeah.
opens that trailer. And everyone, lost their minds. They're like, "Why? This is not a black movie. Why are they start out with the white guys?" Well, this is why, because it's representing how white society views
Right.
this.
They both view them negatively.
Right.
The liberal thinks they're viewing it, but it's very condescending. Like, well, the blacks aren't as smart, so we have to help.
We have to help them.
We have to help them. And it's
White
this,
man's burden.
Yeah. And so it's like, I love that, and then I love like, Claw's dead, and Ross is just this sort of bumbling Clouseau type guy.
Yeah.
Who's like
He wants to help.
He could fly the virtual plane. Okay.
He could fly the virtual
barely, but he was like
That's
so
because he's a pilot, though.
Because-
Yeah, he was a pilot.
And she made the sand pilot cockpit the way
Right.
that so he could fly it.
She had to dumb it down for him. Like when he got to Wakanda, he was the big arrogant CIA guy. Like,
Right.
okay, little poor tribal people.
He's the colonizer.
He's the colonizer.
Right.
And then when he gets
That
there,
was funny. They called him colonizers.
and then he gets there, he's like, oh Jesus. And
Which is even more appropriate, being he is really British.
yeah, I know. It's just,
He could relate.
Yeah.
but yeah, I liked so much of the social commentary. It was fantastic. I'm loving to see more and more of.
Well, it's interesting how a movie like this could have gone too far in either direction. It could have been an empty, CG-filled, just like action fest.
Missed opportunity.
Or it could be like so heavy with the social commentary that you're like, oh my God, we get it. Like it was...
like Avatar.
Right.
Which was visually amazing, but was so just like I was expecting. It was one frame away from just protect the environment flashing on the goddamn screen. You know, where this was like, so like you say, so succinct. It was so, they didn't have this long explanations verbally. They just handle everything. You're like, oh, got it. Boom. Love it. Yeah,
I like how it showed Wakanda was not perfect. There was a lot of mistakes that the kings made, that the society made.
All of his ancestors, and he calls them out.
Yeah,
and
he calls all of them out. Like,
I'm not gonna die here. I'm gonna go back and fix your shit.
Yeah. Which was like, what an amazing leader. That's the other thing too that was so great. If you want to show that like the Black Panther is, and this incarnation of him he's the best leader, if he's able to call out his dad and ancestors when he goes back into that plane, that subconscious plane,
spirit root,
the spirit plate, you know, when he makes that spirit Skype call, whatever. I was like, that's a leader, because a good leader learns from your mistakes. A good leader doesn't just blindly say, well, I'm right, shut up, everything.
Well, this is what we've always done.
This is what we,
This is what we've always done. And that's his arc, because the first time he goes to the ancestral plane, he bows down and he says, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't be without you. How am I supposed to do this? And then you get the first little nugget of you're a good man and it's hard for a good man to be king. So now that set up the stakes, that he's going to be faced with a bunch of stuff. He didn't realize that he would have to face his own father's lie. But when he comes around, he's gone through that arc, and now he knows who he is.
And it sets up the thing. I mean, it plants a little seed of like, oh, so the only way for him to be a good leader is to be a bad man?
Yeah.
Which is like...
Or it will question his morals.
Right. He'll have to start making those concessions, those ethical concessions when you're a leader.
Right.
And... he doesn't. He's faced with all of these things, but he doesn't. Yeah. It's sort of like Luke Skywalker defies Yoda, and he's right. I got to go back and save my friends. And Yoda and Obi-Wan are like, no, the Emperor's going to win.
Yeah,
Nope. You know, he did what was right. He did the morally right thing, even in the face.
He didn't listen to Force Ghosts.
No, he didn't listen to Force Ghosts. And none of these guys listen to their spirit realm Force Ghosts.
No.
And so that was really cool. Yeah. And I mean, I'm trying to think of a superhero movie that had this many strong independent women. Other than Wonder Woman.
Other than Wonder Woman. Right.
Obviously Wonder Woman. But
and
like,
even if the Dora Milaje were against the Amazons, that would be a pretty fun fight.
Yeah.
But they were like, and their sense of duty and not needing a man and not needing a relationship, but still wanting like still having love and sense and femininity, but then can fucking whoop your ass. It was so rad, man. It was so badass.
And then Shuri is the smartest, by Marvel's terms, they say Shuri is the smartest character in the Marvel universe. Really? So she is, she gives Tony Stark a run for his money. And in fact, there's a little shot in Infinity War where Iron Man's suit starts forming from a kind of a collar piece. So it's like, I bet you Shuri was having a little chat with Tony Stark.
Oh, that was the thing, the Black Panther.
Well, the other thing
so awesome.
then that makes it a little even less likely that she would have given the finger.
See what I'm saying? You see my point? You see my point? That's my one.
Maybe she has a little bit of Stark snark in her.
That's my point.
I'm still thinking about astronauts arguing. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Astronauts shouldn't argue.
They don't argue.
They're stuck in space together.
In space. They didn't. The actual Apollo 13
unless
mission,
one of them's Russian. Then
and then there's
right.
Played by the dude from Fargo.
All right. Anything else?
I think we thoroughly covered this movie. The way it looked, the way it felt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I saw the movie in IMAX, and then before we started recording, Todd, you were telling me the framing is different.
So the movie is intended to be seen in a 2:40 aspect ratio, so kind of a cinema scope type of aspect ratio. So most of the movie is like that. Mm-hmm. But then there are scenes in IMAX where they expand that up to a more like a 4:3 aspect ratio to fill the IMAX screen. Mm-hmm. So I know the last act did that. So it does it subtly so that it doesn't just go whoop. But during a cut or something like that, it moves into this big IMAX version. Mm-hmm. of the scenes, which kind of
so you get more information on the screen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're saying I need to see it in regular version to see the full frame?
No, vice versa. You saw the full frame. And so the Blu-ray people and the people at the normal theaters will get the 2:40 aspect ratio throughout the entire thing. Mm-hmm. So there's just more stuff at top and bottom. There's more stuff that we had to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And that's just at the in the battle sequences at the end?
I know that for sure because it was our sequence. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it may have been in Busan because that's a pretty big set piece.
Mm-hmm.
So the big battle sequences then, that was your company's?
Yeah. There was some intermixing of that. We took the majority of it. And then ILM had the chase through the Golden City. Mm-hmm. And then when the fight goes down into the mine, that went to double negative. So we have the shot where he tackles them and then they're falling and they're fighting as they're falling. And then they hit the tracks and then it cuts to double negative shots. So we were like cutting back to back with another facility. So there's a lot of shared stuff going on between the studios. Like we developed the Black Panther's suit, Killmonger's suit, and then we passed that to everyone else who needed it. So anytime you see those suits, they're completely replaced all the time.
Oh wow!
Cool. And some of it was because on set, when you're doing stunts and stuff, the suits get damaged, they rip, stuff like that. But also, once we started getting into it, the suits evolved and they changed their design. And so that made it so that it was required that every suit was replaced later.
Nice.
And
well, yeah, I got to see this movie again.
So
I loved
it.
Three white guys enjoy talking about
it.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. It was like it's a great film. First and foremost,
it is.
It's fun, great Marvel. Like all good Marvel movies, it's very unique in its genre, yet still fits in the Marvel universe.
And we're going back to Wakanda for Infinity War. There's a giant sequence.
Fuck yeah.
So we had to share stuff with them too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that movie.
That's so cool. So yeah, and then the social commentary and 95% of the cast is black. It was I mean, I just love it. It was great. It was like when I saw Wonder Woman, I was like, finally.
Yeah.
Finally. Let's make this there's plenty of room for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be the same with Captain Marvel because it'll be the first Marvel solo female superhero.
Good.
Right.
And so there will be a lot of emphasis on it.
That was the one thing DC got right. They got the first one out of the gate.
They did. That's where they beat Marvel. That's where they beat Marvel. But yeah, this is great. See the movie. Can't wait to hear your guys' comments on it.
Yep.
Put them on the YouTube page and the Facebook and all that other stuff.
So Todd, where can people find? Oh wait, you know what we didn't do there? Our Patreon sponsors.
Oh,
yeah,
snap!
The Audacity Performing Arts Project, a nonprofit working to bring after-school performing arts programs to public schools. The Audacity's primary goal is to serve those schools who cannot afford their services. They rely on community donations to keep the programs alive. CFN fans who support Audacity with a $25 donation, normally $30, receive an amazing Audacity t-shirt. That's cfnaudacityperformingarts.org to learn more. And also, supplyanddemandinvesting.com. Because planning for retirement should be as easy as planning your next vacation. It just takes longer.
$50 a month on the Patreon will read your business and website every episode.
Yep.
It is the best advertising deal on the face of this earth.
Yep. Take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it. Yeah.
Plug
Todd,
it.
Plug it. Book it. Todd, where can people find you online? Can they see your work? Follow you on the social media?
I am
offer you money for that cool Black Panther hat.
I wonder if I could get in trouble for that. I'm selling swag.
I'm sure you wouldn't be the first one.
Probably not. You can find me on Twitter at teaspoonvfx, and I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. Same credentials. I do write tons and tons of little movie reviews on Facebook, which then gets kind of linked to Twitter. So I try and do every movie that I see, which is a lot. But then I went to see the Oscar shorts, like the animated ones and the live action ones and the documentary ones, and it was like, oh my God, 15 reviews, and I got to make a choice of which one I think is going to win. So sometimes I fall behind.
Well, thanks for coming down here, man, and really sharing. It was really cool to get somebody that worked behind the scenes on this film.
Give us some, insider info.
So great. It was like I learned a lot on this episode.
And we want to thank Todd again for doing the animation for Earbuds, the podcasting documentary.
Yes, he did.
That's right.
You guys didn't know that. The animated scene in the beginning of Earbuds is Todd Perry did this. He's a podcast fan. And we have a feature project we're all trying to.
We do, and Todd will be a part of it.
A couple.
We're working.
Yeah, we got a couple. We're pushing forward. Also, Todd's going to do he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to do a movie recommendation for the Patreon supporters, the $5 level.
Yes, he is.
A movie recommendation.
Yes.
Think about it.
Wow. You have 5 seconds.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our episode.
Old or new or
anything.
Whatever.
It can be anything. Yep. So go to Patreon at the $5 level. You'll hear Todd be forced at gunpoint to give this
yes.
Please.
He thought he was done.
Nope, you're not done. Thanks, everybody here at ATC. My name is Graham Elwood.
And I'm Chris Mancini. And as always, remember,
Han shot first.